Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. I am sipping on some coffee this morning, and I've actually been thinking about a topic that is a little bit deep, honestly. Um, this is not going to be the most fun thing to talk about, but it is such an important thing to talk about, and I do talk about this with my clients. And before I delve into this, I just want people to know that even for my own personal experiences, I have a very high score on this, and even in my own journey therapeutically, I've seen how working through the things that I went through in early childhood and through traumas, that I've come out on the other side, and there is hope that these things don't have to determine your health, your happiness, your relationship success, your career success. There's a lot we can do so that these don't impact your life, but if you don't ever work on anything and you don't have any of the resilience factors, we do know that in the research, these things do impact your life in huge, huge ways, even predicting potentially early death. So we've got to talk about it. It's not fun stuff to talk about, but let's delve into it. These are the 10 different things and different questions you'll have to ask yourself. If you answer yes, you get a score of 1. A pretty high score, well, they say if it's, from 1 to 4, that is still significant to address those things, but usually it's not going to be as predictive of, early death or divorce or not being successful in your career. But if you're a person like myself who has more than 4 of these scores, and I won't delve into which ones I do have because, you got to keep some things personal in that way. But I will say that if I remember correctly, I think I have a score of either a 7 or an 8. So pretty high up there. And I tell you that not because I want self-pity or anything. I tell you that because I want to give you hope, and I want you to understand how much we can be resilient and how much there is hope and possibility if we work through this stuff. Now, in my journey, I definitely had to do some therapy. I had to do some self-work and had to learn some hard life lessons along the way. And that may be part of your journey too, but don't give up, because I do feel like a lot of that has been healed. I'm still working through things, but I think it hasn't really impacted my health, my relationships, and my careers in the ways that it could have if I hadn't worked through things earlier on. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be reading off my computer over here, but because I want to make sure I get this right. So number 1, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt, even if you were never actually physically hurt? Number 2, did a parent or another caregiver in the household often or very often push, grab, slap, or physically injure you, or throw something at you? Number 3, did an adult or a person at least 5 years older than you, so it could be an older sibling, ever touch, fondle you, or touch you in a way that was sexually inappropriate or sexual, or attempt to have any sort of type of intercourse with you, whether it was, traditional sense or oral? Number 4, did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought that you were very important or special? Did your family not look out for each other or feel close to each other? This is one I think that's more subtle, that people don't realize as childhood trauma, but even people from family systems that are intact can have these feelings, whether they're true or not. If you perceive that you weren't cared for or supported by family members, that makes a difference. Number 5, did you often or very often feel that you didn't have enough to eat or wear? Did you have dirty clothes or a dirty house that you lived in? Or were your parents too drunk or high to take care of you and take you to the doctor if needed? So it's kind of either of those. Would you answer yes to? Number 6, were your parents ever separated or divorced? Number 7, was your mother or stepmother often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or something thrown at her? sometimes often or very often kicked, bitten, hit with a fist, or hit with something hard, or ever repeatedly hit at least a few minutes or threatened with a gun or knife. So was there ever any sorts of signs of domestic violence towards a parent? I would say mom or dad. Number 8, did you live with anyone who is a problem drinker, an alcoholic, or who used street drugs? Number 9, was a household member depressed or mentally ill? Or did a household member ever attempt suicide? So this could be parents or siblings. And number 10, did a household member ever go to prison? Look, I know these are deep topics, and yeah, even reading through them, I'm like, man, these are some hard things, but it's so important that we look and take an analysis of if we had these early childhood traumas, because these impact us so much. The research shows that. And we could be trying to heal from this by over-functioning or being super productive in other ways. So even if you're successful in society, that doesn't mean that you're not impacted by childhood trauma. I encourage that everybody that comes into our office take the ACE score, because that gives us very important information as therapists. I also would love for more doctors' offices to have ACE scores, because this is so profoundly impactful in helping to understand both physical, mental illness as a whole. And so, yeah, if you're a physician or somebody who has access to these resources as far as getting assessments, I'd highly recommend it. And if you do have a high ACE score, if you have an ACE score of 4 or above, I would recommend taking that and going to a therapist and just kind of talking about that with them, seeing if it's something worth looking into. Maybe you had different resilience factors, so you never really had to work through the traumas in therapy, and maybe you didn't. But I think it's worth that time. I think it's worth that initial session just to see, okay, are these things holding me back in life in any way? Because they could be. They totally could be. I hope you guys have an awesome Wednesday. We are halfway through our week, and I will see you tomorrow.